Alrighty, how is everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's enjoying the amazing marathon that's been going on. Want to give it a quick congrats to Fridge Fella. It's always nice to see folks being able to PB, especially in the marathon setting, as those are definitely very special PBs to that I feel are, because it's a little higher pressure because you can't reset your run or anything if anything goes wrong. So you gotta basically do it all in one stride, and it's nice to see folks be able to have those kind of accomplishments. But anyway, I'm IBAALLDAY. We were here on Saturday with our Superboss run, and today we're here with our 1FM beginner any percent run. And basically, what this entails is we are beating the game with the bare minimum requirements. So there's going to be a couple worlds that we're not going to see in this run at all. And there's also going to be some spells that we're not going to have in the run that you would normally have in a normal playthrough. So time will start as soon as we okay the proceed. And then I'm just for the sake of being on the careful side of things, I'm going to mute the in-game audio and probably my mic for the moment, just because it's a little finicky with the copyright for the opening song for this, since we can't skip it on PS4 or PS5. So we'll begin here in 3, 2, 1. I'll at least mute the in-game audio so I can talk for a little moment. But normally, so the Xbox port and the PC port, you're actually able to skip this opening cutscene, which saves about 3.5 minutes, give or take, because that's about how long this intro is. But the opening song sequence for this game sometimes gets copyrighted, so some runners will tend to mute their audio. Others just go for it because they're not super strict about it. You just kind of get a thing saying, "Hey, this is just going to be muted because it's copyrighted." So um, this is an amazing run. There's a lot of really awesome strats throughout this entire run as well. Um, and the big thing that we'll be seeing too is a heavy use of air combos, which we'll be seeing as soon as we get things going. The nice thing with this, with beginner as well, in comparison to like 2FM or KH3, is we get the luxury of starting out with some extra stuff to our name. So we get some strength boosts, defense boosts, and AP boosts to start the game, which will help us be extremely overpowered to start in the early game. So you're going to be seeing a lot of stuff get kind of like simple enemies getting one shot just because our strength is so high at the very start. And the routing that is used as well, you would think we would be picking up the sword since it's a strength boost. However, it limits us on our magic in the game. And in KH1 especially, magic is very important because the more MP bars you have determines the strength of your magic, how long some of your magic lasts. So stuff like that we'll be seeing stop and the strength of gravity, even for the most part, that all kind of gets determined a little bit more based on the amount of MP that we have. We won't be using any of the AP boosts because they're not necessary for the run. So we're going to be actually selling those a little bit later on for a couple important items that'll help speed up the process as well. The one major there's going to be a couple differences in routing too. So a lot of the top times in this game are done through the Japanese version because the text boxes are a lot quicker. I think if I remember correctly, it saves over a minute. So a lot of the top tier runners run on the Japanese version just for that extra amount of time save that you get from those text boxes. But in turn, there is a couple routing differences, as I'll explain once we get to there. But here we go with the start of everything finally after about 3 minutes. So let's have some fun. So right away, we're going to be able to skip a cutscene here and just kind of go through the basics. of the game, just kind of explaining how things work. Jump is our circle button, and right now we're picking our starting weapon for this first sequence, which is going to right off the bat determine our stats. So we're picking the staff, which will give us 3 MP bars at the start, and we're sacrificing defense because we want to maintain our strength for the entire run as well. And as defense is not as important in this run because there's not too much danger, but there's still quite a bit once we start getting to mid game and late game as well. But we'll be able to kind of do a lot with Cure, which will kind of help prevent us from being able to die and kind of tank through a lot of stuff, especially for an ability called Leaf Bracer, which will allow us to heal through any attack that is coming at us. So we'll be able to cure. That shadow got sent flying. Which will be able to allow us to heal without having to worry about getting hit, which is very nice for super late in the game where we're going to be getting hit quite a bit intentionally, just because it's just quicker to just tank the heal and or hit and just heal immediately and go back to business. So some of this in early game can be a little tricky to do kind of quick, especially the barrel. I do kind of an extended jump, but there's a way to do an extremely fast air combo where you just kind of slide your finger from the jump button immediately to the attack, which will allow you for a super insane attack. And the higher runners on the boards are very much capable of doing those insane air combos where it looks like you're not even getting off the ground at all. And so what we just did right here is we're setting. This is kind of the one thing that kind of sets a bit of a difference between all the other KH games, is those choices determines our XP routing. So with it being set to dawn, our XP leveling will be a lot faster through early and I believe to mid game, whereas the other settings would be quicker for late game, which would not help us get to certain levels already. If we had chosen any of the other, if we had gotten any of the other options, I think it's sunset and I think midnight, we would not already be having that level up right there to start. And there's actually, with Proud Level 1, you actually have to intentionally choose the end game leveling so that you can actually be level 1 by the time that you can actually do your menu to set up the no experience. And now we are going to go ahead and pop all these power-ups and defense boosts to pump Sora full of stats. And then, again, like I said, we're not going to be using the AP boosts here because we don't need them for the run. And so, this fight, Darkside 1, is just a bunch of, it's 4 full air combos here. And then that's the end of the fight. And then we're going to get rid of this potion because we don't want that potion sitting in our inventory later on when we go to menu some stuff. Unlike with KH2, KH3, and I think a couple other KH games as well, anything that you pick up out of a chest does not get put into your stock, so you have to manually put those items into your stock. And so if you've got those extra potions, then you gotta try and find a way to dump them, or you gotta try and find a way to get rid of them somehow later on. So normally the game's going to want you to go around all the way around there, but we can throw that barrel there, which allows us to get just enough height to just immediately jump up. And we're right now just doing a bunch of errands for Kyrie here to set up our little boat that's going to get us off the island. So we got a cloth, a rope, and some logs on day 1 that we're going to, and a log that we're going to pick up on day 1. And then on day 2, it's going to be kind of about provisions, so the fish for food, water, mushrooms, and some coconuts and a seagull. Or no, we'll also pick up seagull eggs day 2. Sorry. We'll also be picking up a seagull egg as well, which I guess is like their food portion of everything for day 2 before we get off the island. And so just like that, that's the end of day 1 on Destiny Island here. And something to kind of note with the cutscenes in 1FM is um, they're a little touchy on when you can actually initiate the pause to try and skip the cutscene. Some of them have certain links before you can actually even go to pause to try and skip the cutscene, and others you can do immediately. So it just takes a little bit of time to understand which cutscenes can be skipped right away and which cutscenes you have to kind of wait a moment before you can try and skip them. So now, day 2 collecting, again, all the food provisions and everything for us to get off the island. This mushroom actually kind of has a bit of a tricky hitbox, so you kind of saw me angle myself there a little bit, because if you try and directly run at the mushroom, it just, for whatever reason, that specific mushroom has a very weird hitbox, so you kind of have to angle yourself in order to actually acquire the item. Once again, just kind of some small movement on Destiny Island. We're able to jump on top of the shack where otherwise the game would want you to go directly through the shack and go through a couple loading zones just to be able to go after that seagull egg there. And now we're going to get into a race with Riku, because Sora and Riku, even though they're the best of buds, they're very competitive with one another. And Sora wants to name the gummy ship one name, or the boat one name, and Riku wants it to be another name. So the very first race determines the actual name of the ship. And if we win this race, we get a very valuable item that we'll be selling called a Pretty Stone. And which we need that Pretty Stone because it's worth 100 money, which is the currency for Kingdom Hearts. And we will need that money in order to buy a couple items later on in the run. If we ended up losing this race, we'd have to either redo the race or just reset the run, because you don't want to leave Destiny Islands without it, because it's very hard to acquire 100 money any other way without kind of going all over the place to try and get it. So we're gonna go make our way to a boulder here. We're gonna push out of the way to grab our second mushroom of 3, and then after that I'm gonna talk to Kyrie real quick to pick up a empty bottle which she wants us to fill with water, and even yells at Sora to say, do not try and fill it with water from the ocean, because it's not drinkable. So we're gonna walk onto this tree here, and any of these green coconuts is what we're looking for. Oh, I accidentally made it disappear. I wasn't expecting another one to drop right away. And the reason to lock on is the green coconuts as well have a lock on itself. So typically after you do a couple swings, you can do some target switching, which will kind of help you identify if you actually got a green coconut right away. Because the brown ones, they're just there to be there. So it's a little RNG if you get quick coconuts or not. So sometimes Destiny Islands can be a little rough just because you can get both coconuts that you need right away, or it'll take a moment for both of them to drop for you. And that is the end of day 2 on Destiny Islands. Gonna go fight Darkseid again here in just a moment once again. He's a little stronger this time, but still nothing that we can't handle quickly. Right now, just going through a bunch of cutscene skips involving Donald and Goofy, finding out that the King's gone, and that they're on their way out now to go find the Keyblade wielder. And now, so we get to see the shadows once again. We can't do anything while we're holding the wooden sword, which will also kind of play a bit of a factor later on in the run as well. So we have to go to the island where the part of the island where Riku's at, because that allows us to get the kingdom key, which now we'd be able to actually attack these shadows if we wanted to, but we're not going to, because there's no reason for us to do anything with them just yet. And so this cutscene can be, it takes a moment. As soon as you see the transition to Sora running in, you can immediately skip it. And now we're going to fight Darkseid 2 here. Going to open up with a full air combo. And just kind of wail on him again. And again, you saw that we just got 2 level ups there. Again, level ups early in the game are going to kind of be happening quite a bit because of the XP routing that we have. So now we're out of Destiny Islands and we're on to our first true world in the game, Traverstown. So right off the bat, we're going to ignore going into the accessory shop, which was located behind us, as we're going to go straight into the second district, so that we can immediately proceed into advancing the storyline. And so we're going to run into the shadows again here. In order for us to proceed to the next flag, we need to destroy 5 shadows. So I believe we took out 3 there, so we need to take out 2 more in order to be able to proceed through the storyline. If we fail to take out 5, which we'll see here after we go into the accessory shop. Once we leave the accessory shop, there should be a cutscene that'll play for us facing off with Leon. If you do not take out 5 shadows, then you will not get a cutscene as soon as you step out of this door. And so Leon can open up with a couple attacks here. We want the jump attack because it's kind of the best attack that we can get from him. As him jumping towards us, we can just do 1-2 on him the entire time, and then follow up with a full air combo, and then follow up again with a couple more 1-2 air hits without a finisher, just to kind of keep him staggered in place. So this is one of the cutscenes, by the way, that I was mentioning, that it's very specific timing. So as soon as Riku's eyes open up, you're actually allowed to skip the cutscene.
Come on.
So now, been taken to the care of Yuffie and Leon here. Gonna talk to Yuffie real quick. My route that I use, I pick up this elixir here just for safety in my runs. I'm not to the point where I can go without that elixir, so I just like to pick that up every time. And this game is very generous with elixirs compared to any of the other games, for the most part. They give those things out like candy. So before we even leave Traverstown, we're going to have 2 elixirs on us. And so we're taking out 3 soldiers on our way to our first boss fight in Traverstown. And the reason for that is we're looking to get a level up right before the boss, which will give us a strength boost, which will help with our damage in the fight. Because even though we popped ourselves full of power boost and everything, it'll still be a slower fight than if we were to get this strength boost. Very good fight for the most part. Yeah, that was a very good fight. So here we're just kind of wailing on guard armor with a bunch of air combos here. I'm going to start target switching to the other parts of his body. Because we need to break all the pieces on his body in order to get guard armor to his final state, in which guard armor will be immune at this point. We can't attack him, and then as soon as he comes down, we'll be able to finish the fight off here. And that is the end of Traverstown 1. Gonna get our first set of actual abilities that we'll be able to equip here. Um, Something that makes movement kind of nice in this game, um, we get an ability called dodge roll right off the bat, which is basically going to be our main form of movement for the entirety of this game. Um, and unlike 2FM, where we have to wait almost an hour and a half really to get any kind of actual good movement for base Sora, we get that right out of the gate with this game. And so this is going to be the first part of the run where you're going to see a variation between the English version and the Japanese version of 1FM. So normally after we get done with all of this, the Japanese version would take the... sorry, one sec. The Japanese version would go ahead and go into the accessory shop, which will talk you through the trinities that are in this game. The trinities, you need Donald and Goofy in your party in order to access them, and also need to have learned set of Trinity in order to be able to activate them. So like this Trinity that we're coming up to right now, the first time that Donald and Goofy, or that you guys see the Trinity, you'll always get this kind of cutscene. And this allows us to actually clip through the the bars there to get to Waterway, which is kind of big for English because it allows us to immediately go to Leon here, which cuts a little bit of time out from our second trip to Traverstown when we come back here a little bit later. In the Japanese version, they would be already on their way to the next world, but they have to go through a bunch more in order to get back to the Waterway to go through all of this, because right now we're not supposed to actually be here until after we learn the Red Trinity, which we'll learn after we get through a world called Deep Jungle. So we have a little bit of downtime right now, so if there are any donations, that'll be a perfect time right now as we kind of make our way through here. So yeah, once again, something that is a little bit different for the English version is we are coming to Merlin's house right away, which allows us to have access to this warp point, which will again cut out a lot of time for us on our second visit, because we're going to be having to come back to Merlin's place here a little bit later on. The Earthshine item that we picked up, that we got from Leon, we can't do anything with that just yet because technically we're not supposed to have that item just yet. So we can't do anything with that item until after we get through a couple more flags. So we're going to be going ahead and modifying our gummy ship here. We're going to basically tear this sucker completely apart to the point where we're just a box and a rocket and a gun. And the reason for that is in this game, our speed with the gummy ship is determined by the fluidness, sorry, of the gummy ship, and this is the fastest way that we can go about anything for our gummy ship. The other big thing to point out too is this is the only game where difficulty matters in terms of the damage you take as well for Gummy Travel. So on beginner, we don't necessarily take a whole lot of damage, but we can still get into trouble with our Gummy Travel if we're not careful. If on normal, the damage kind of gets kicked up a little bit more, and on Proud, you take 2 times the damage. So Gummy Travel and runs for Proud mode are extremely dangerous because you have runners that are traveling in this model where you can instantly die if you're not careful. And it makes it extremely challenging for Proud mode runners, especially because, again, like I said, you take so much damage on your Gummy Travels that it's very risky, but you have no choice but to do this in order to kind of save yourself on a bunch of time. Because there's going to be some other Gummy modding that we'll be doing later on as well, which is going to increase our traveling pace here. We're going to get our first look at Wonderland. It's kind of a short visit in all reality, based on everything that we're going to be doing. So it's going to be kind of quick for this world. On PC, you actually can't skip the cutscene when you first go into the giant or the bazaar room. You actually have to watch the rabbit run through, and that's just kind of something that was added to the Xbox version, but it's not that big of a deal considering they get to skip, the first 3 minutes and 15 of the game, so it makes things super nice for that comparison versus a 5 to 10 second, cutscene. Something else to point out too, all the text boxes in 1FM we can't skip like we can in 2FM and even KH3, and even some of the other games as well. So we have to kind of just try and mash through. Again, this is kind of the big reason that a lot of top runners prefer the Japanese version, because it's less text boxes that they gotta mash through, which allows them to get back to the action a lot sooner. And the game wants you to try and pick up 4 of those evidence boxes. We only pick up the 1 because that's all you need in order to advance through the rest of this world. So what we're looking for is the very first box that hits the ground, and that's where the Heartless is. And I believe it was the middle one. I might be wrong. It might have been the right one. The far right one. Yep. So there's a chance that when you're wrong, you get Donald by himself locked up, or Goofy locked up by himself. In this case, we got both of them locked up, so this is going to be an interesting fight. So this fight is, we got to time our air combos here, as to be able to quickly get through the cranks there, and that allow us to immediately attack the tower here. And since we don't have Donald or Goofy with us, it makes it a little tough to kind of keep the ads off of us sometimes. The other thing to point out too is once you destroy all 3 cranks, until you touch the tower again itself, you cannot lock onto the tower. As the tower, it's kind of weird. The tower itself doesn't actually have a lock on until you start damaging it again. So until you get damage, we were very fortunate that there was a card right behind the tower, so Sora was still technically attacking the tower, which allowed us to switch targets back to the tower immediately and just keep going at that. So now we're going to light these 2 little candles here, which is going to have the Cheshire Cat tell us that the boss in this world is threatening the door. So we're gonna quickly make our way out. We're gonna do a quick little cool skip. Wow. By doing that little jump over there in those 2 dodge rolls, it allows us to activate that latch without having to defeat any of the Heartless. Because if the text turns red, we can't activate we can't activate the latch in order to get out of there quickly. This fight is actually kind of a cool fight. It's very simple, but it can get out of hand really quickly. So we're going to open up with a full combo here. Do a 1-2, 1-2-3, another 1-2. We're going to kind of extend our jump a little bit because we want to try and get as much on the height as we can. And the reason that I'm doing landing back on the ground like that is so that I can allow myself to rise up with Trickmaster as he's getting back up into the air, back up off of his feet. I am stuttering so badly, I apologize. And it allows us to be able to do that fight without having to use anything like the table or the chair to try and get up to the Trickmaster's actual hitbox. And so that's why as soon as he's falling down to the ground, you can follow up with a quick air combo, and then you don't have to jump again, you can just press X and Sora will do like a rising attack as Trickmaster is going back up. And that was it for Wonderland. So now we're going to make our way to Deep Jungle, and we'll have a little bit of time here as this gummy trip is a little longer. So any chance that there were donations, be perfect time for any of that or any reminder about the marathon. So Sora and Donald are going to get into a heated argument here. So our gummy ship's going to go crashing into this world known as Deep Jungle, home of Tarzan. This world is a bit tricky to maneuver, mainly because a lot of the enemies in this world are rather small targets. So air combos are a bit of a fun little task to try and do. So our very first enemy here is Sabor. Sabor is a very small target, so it makes it really difficult to do anything to actually hit Sabor because they're so low to the ground that unless you're doing super fast air combos, you kind of have to maneuver it a little bit differently to still be efficient for the fight. For Sabor 1, it only takes 6 physical hits, I believe, in order to end that fight. Otherwise, depending on where Sabor lands, you can just go ahead and use some magic as well. And the reason we jumped off there is we wanted to access that save point and hop down, as this is our fastest means of traveling. And we're going to exit out of that minigame immediately. And normally in a casual playthrough, you go through the tent, and Jane would tell you that you need to go collect these slides. But as a runner, we already know about these slides, so we can go ahead and collect them ahead of time, which will allow us to still go into the tent and proceed things like normal, but we already have all the slides, so we'll be able to continue the storyline from there without having to go back out, which is pretty nice. And then we're going to be, after this, we're going to be actually using some world warps. Because on PS4 and PC, it's much faster to do world warping than it is to just run from point A to point B. And so that's the reason why you saw me touch that save point back there before hopping down that tree trunk, as we're going to be warping back to that point from here, which is going to save quite a bit of time. Because otherwise you'd have to go through a couple zones and some climbing just to get to the point that we're going to be at already. And I'm going to pick up this Mega Ether here. It's just something I pick up in case I'm ever super short on money, which usually is not a problem. We want to have 1250 for money by the time that we are going back to by the time that we're going to be going back to Traverstown, and that includes any of the items that we picked up along the way, as we're going to be selling all of that later on for some items. And our buddy Kerchak is in some trouble, so had to go check on him, make sure everything's good. Now we're going to fall off again, and once again we're going to hop into the tree there and quit out of the minigame, as it's much faster to get to here than it is to just do the whole minigame. And then we're going to go back to the tent once again, which Jane's going to yell at Clayton for shooting at any of the monkeys and gorillas. And so now we're going to be fighting some monkeys of our own, known as Power Wilds. It only takes 2 blizzards to take them out, so we want to hopefully get them all grouped up, we want to try and take out as many of them as we can in an efficient manner with our magic. As right now we only have 3 MP bars until our next level up, which we'll be getting here a little later on, which will give us 4 MP bars, which will allow us to do some more blizzard casting. And it'll make things a lot easier too. So I try and save my magic a little bit here, just because the next the next fight after this is kind of annoying, as it's more open space for the Power Wilds to kind of go crazy. And so we're gonna be going up to the treehouse now. Same thing. There's a couple more. There's 3 more fights, or 2 more fights after this one here that we got to do to save the gorillas from the Power Wilds here. And this is kind of a good opening pattern here. Did not mean to do a fire, but that's fine. We also hope that Donald will kind of help us out sometimes, but Donald doesn't have a whole lot of MP, so it's a little luck if Donald's able to actually help us out here. So after that fight, we're going to quickly pop the ether there to refill our MP, just so we've got MP for the next fight coming up. That was actually kind of lucky that Power Wild went over there, so we were able to take out both of those Power Wilds with that full air combo there, which kind of saved us a little bit of our MP. Pretty good section of Power Wilds for the most part. The last couple ones could be a little bit troublesome just because it's more open space for them to kind of run rampant and not be grouped up as much, so pretty fortunate for the most part to get through that relatively quickly, as Power Wilds are never the same. You can get really good Power Wilds one trip, and then the next one you get them running rampant, so it's a little RNG sometimes with that fight, or with those fights, so you just gotta do the best you can. And now Sabor's back. Hoping to not have Sabor running rampant right now, which is kind of the case. Thankfully, a good fight for the most part. We mostly want to try and do as many physical air combos as physical attacks that we can, as that's going to be a little bit stronger on Sabor versus using magic there towards the end. The only main reason to use magic towards the end of the fight is if there's a lot of distance between you and Sabor, as you should be able to still kill Sabor at that point with a bunch of fires. So we're going to do a nice little skip here again. Normal playthrough, normally you'd have to take those vines to get over to this section to go to climbing trees. But if we activate that minigame, we're able to, and quit out of it, we're able to be put at the end of it, which saves quite a bit of time from having to do the vine climbs here. This little black fruit here just takes 5 full air combos, and that's the end of that to rescue Jane and Kerchak, which is going to set us up now to go take on Clayton, and I forgot this unskippable. So now we're going to run off to go fight Clayton, because Clayton is terrorizing the gorillas, and he has a special little friend with him called a stealth sneak, which we'll see here on the second portion of this fight, as it's broken into 2 parts. So the first part of this only takes 6 hits entirely. Doesn't matter how those hits happen, Donald can use magic, and that'll count as one of the hits. And so now we're on to the actual fight. Clayton's now riding a stealth sneak, which is a chameleon. A really cool chameleon. I think, anyway. At least in the final mix versions, they made him look, the chameleon look really cool. Or the stealth sneaks look really cool versus the original on PS2. And so now for the rest of this fight, we're going to be doing a bunch of 1-2 air hits. Hope that Goofy does not cause problems here with pushing Clayton. As if Goofy starts pushing Clayton, it can really start spelling trouble, because Clayton is Air Jordan and has hops like no tomorrow. And if he gets up to a really high height for one of the pillars that you can access in that fight, it makes it really difficult for Sora to be able to get up there quickly. And at a certain point in the fight, Clayton can actually heal himself, which drags out the fight even longer. So now everybody's favorite fun section as a runner is Waterfall Caverns. We're going to be doing a lot of ledge grabbing jumps here, as we are trying to do some skipping here, which thankfully we got on the first try there. Normally you'd have to go jumping and put yourself all the way up through like the vine rope there off to the side in order to get into the part to basically end Deep Jungle. But there was a route discovered, I don't remember by who, unfortunately, but there was a way to do a bunch of hops in the waterfall cavern there, and then be able to do a ledge grab at that last little part in a specific spot, which will allow you to bypass a lot of stuff. And right there, we just learned Red Trinity, but we're not going to be using that Red Trinity. Thankfully, with us being on the English version of 1FM here, we don't have to use the Red Trinity to go break into the Waterway. But we still learn Red Trinity anyway, as that's one of the abilities that you pick up after finishing Deep Jungle. So now we get to have a long drive back to Traverstown, so we're going to have quite a bit of downtime here. So if there's any questions or any donations or anything like that, we got some time here. Yeah. I want to say this though, really happy to be part of this event, getting to showcase some awesome runs that I love and enjoy, and hopefully everyone's been enjoying all the runs throughout the entire event. There's been a lot of incredible runs that I've been able to catch, and again, seeing in some of the chats too, some world records happening during the event, a lot of PBs happening during the event, so it's always awesome to see stuff like that. As the runners are working their tails off to to find ways to improve their runs and drop their times any way possible. You know, coming up with new tech, new strats, labbing things out till their arms go numb, you know. And it's incredible to see the speedrunning community as an entirety. Just all the exciting runs that are out there. You know, even some of the most obscure runs that I've never even, like, even the games that, some games I've never even heard of, I'm just like, that's actually kind of a really cool run to see, you know? And it's always interesting what you can discover in some of these events, as far as runs go and as far as people go. Like myself, I got into speedrunning fully after watching BizKid and Ninten and a few other KH runners for like GDQ and a bunch of other stuff as well, and folks like Spike Vegeta and Jay Hobbs, like they were kind of the ones that really, like, all of those runners kind of really was what got me fully into speedrunning, because I'm like, I love Kingdom Hearts 2, which is the primary game that I do run, and it's amazing to kind of see the improvement in the game since those runs from even back then. So now, we're here at Traverstown. Second visit, we're going to go ahead and go to the accessory shop. Since we didn't touch the save point, since we didn't go through the accessory shop to get out of here, we have to dodge roll to the accessory shop quickly to go talk to Sid about this Navi Gummy piece that we picked up. And he's going to tell us about all this, and we'll later discover, surprise, surprise, Sid is actually a gummy worker. So he's going to be basically our main go-to guy for he's going to be basically our main go-to guy for a lot of the gummy stuff, including some items that we're getting here. Which, speaking of, we're actually going to be dumping some items right now. So we're going to be getting rid of our high potions, our AP boost, Ifrit's Horn, and the Pretty Stone. And after you sell all of that, you want to make sure you have 1250 money, as that's the minimum amount of money that you need in order to get a couple items that we're going to be picking up here in just a moment. But now we're on our way to go talk to Merlin once again, as we're dropping off a mysterious book, which happens to be the 100 Acre Woods. We're actually not going to be setting foot in there on this run. We'll actually be going there for a brief moment, but that's going to be seen at the end of the game pretty much. Again, as there are a few worlds that we're not going to be visiting, but we will be seeing those worlds very briefly in one form or another in the in-game process. These rocks are trying to take off on me. So now, instead of going back and everything, we're going to go ahead and activate the cutscene here. We're going to dodge roll over here because there's actually no enemies after that cutscene. Which we're going to unlock that door, which we're going to be taking as soon as we go talk to Sid and everybody in the small house here. They're going to talk about Maleficent and the secret reports from Ansem. And then they're going to mention again about the big boom that was heard from the bell tower, which we're not going to be doing that right away, as our strength and everything is not quite there to have an efficient fight. So we're going to come back to that fight, excuse me, a little bit later on in the run, when we get some better gear, better stats, and everything to make that fight a lot easier, because believe it or not, that fight actually can be a little bit rough if you were to jump into it right away. And it's also not efficient for a run because our stats just aren't quite there yet to really put a good pounding on the boss for this fight. And so now we're going to buy a couple gummy parts here. We're going to buy a Fire G, go down, and get a Haste G. And those 2 gummy parts that we just picked up is they're going to help us increase our speed for getting to our next world, which is going to be Grabah, home of Aladdin. So now we're going to go ahead and equip those 2 parts, starting with the Fire Genie. I'm going to put it on the left side of the gummy here. And we're going to go scroll over to the special gummies and throw on the Haste G. The Haste G allows us to get a temporary speed boost from the parts that we have. And then after that, it'll have a cooldown before we can use the end, but we're primarily going to be using the Haste G to kind of speed up our process going world to world for the first time. And the reason we just warped to Wonderland there is it's actually shorter of a travel distance from Wonderland to the wormhole that we're going to be going to versus going from Traverstown to try and get to the wormhole. Even though on the map it looks like Traverstown is closer to the wormhole, it's actually not. So that's the reason why that we go ahead and warp to Wonderland, go back to the world menu, and go ahead and travel from there to the wormhole. To make Octo happy, we'll go ahead and destroy a lot of things this time. So some of the main reason I didn't really do a whole lot on my way back to Traverstown is after you've gone to a world for the first time, in the FM series, there's special gummy missions that you can fulfill, which gives us extra gummy parts. And some of those gummy parts fall under like the special item categories and a couple other things, which unfortunately it doesn't take up a whole lot of extra time, but that's just extra time that it takes to have to sort through the gummy parts that we are trying to get to. So that's just kind of the main reason I wasn't really shooting a whole lot on my way back to Traverstown. So now we're in Grabah here. This is going to be a very fun sequence of fights. A lot of really cool fights actually in this world. Some of these fights are going to be a little tricky, so hopefully we'll be able to pull these off in a good manner, and hopefully get a lot of these on the first go. One of the fights in particular that's going to be very tough is the first Jafar fight. Once we get to that point, that fight can actually be a real pain to learn at first, as there's a bit of stuff that goes into it. So once again, gotta touch the save point, because unlike the other Kingdom Hearts games, we actually have to touch the save points in order to have access to them later on if we were to leave the world. So there's gonna be another little skip that we're gonna be doing, which saves us a lot of time on PS4 and PC. It prevents us from having to go through a bunch of extra loading zones and a few other fights as well, just to try and get back to Aladdin's house. So here, we're going to be using a bunch of blizzards to try and position ourselves with the bandits here. Can't quite get them positioned good, just go ahead and do a quick air combo on them. It takes 3 blizzards with the Kingdom Key attached in order to kill them. And the reason we want to try and position ourselves with multiple of them being there is it just makes it a lot easier of a fight. And they do actually hurt quite a bit, even on beginner, to the point that they can actually kill you. One of the older routes and even I think on level 1 and Proud mode, and I could be mistaken there, they actually use Simba. And it's still a very dangerous fight because the bandits can actually hurt you quite a bit. And actually kill you. But we're gonna now world warp again to Aladdin's house. If we didn't touch the save point here, we'd have to go through an extensive series of stuff just to get back to Aladdin's house, and it eats up so much time. So now we're gonna throw on our new Keyblade, known as Jungle Key, and we're gonna give Goofy the XP boost, the XP ring there. The reason for that is, as long as they are in your party, they still will provide you with the extra XP that is needed in order to continue getting the level ups quickly. which is a nice little touch, as it doesn't have to be on Sora to apply. It applies to every... we unfortunately got Black Fungus. So there's a chance entering the Bazaar room here that you can get Black Fungus. If so, you just have to quickly exit the room and reload the room again. And we're just going to kill all those enemies real quick. Not fall down, because there will be another trigger for Heartless down there, which we don't want to trigger, as we'd have to take all of them out in order to continue through the room to get to that keyhole there, which will allow us to move on to the first boss in this world, known as Pot Centipede. And Pot Centipede, pretty straightforward fight. The big thing really is just about positioning on where you get the kill. As you can save a lot of time with loading zones, depending on where you get the kill at. So we're going to open up with a full combo. Oh, I didn't get off the ground, but we're going to open up with a full air combo there and follow up with a bunch of 1-2s until he starts moving. And at that point, we're going to just start doing full air combos as Pot Centipede is moving about. Hopefully it can break him. There we go. Because this will allow us at least a better time with keeping him in a good spot here. Unfortunately, Pot Centipede is a little dangerous still at that point, and we want to try and get past that solid black line on the ground, as if we're past that, once the fight ends, we are technically in the next zone. So we'll get thrown here instead of back in the room where the Pot Centipede was at. So now we have our next little boss fight. Cavehead has been taken over, unfortunately, so we need to kind of get him back under control. So we're going to dodge roll our way up to the cave head here. Do a dodge roll there, and get onto the head. And we're going to start off, I'm going to go ahead and do this. We're going to start off with doing a bunch of 1-2s here on the eyes. Going to try and balance this out, because once the eyes get to a certain point, Cavehead can kind of start going crazy. And eventually, Cavehead's going to go ahead and put himself down in the ground, which I'm hoping he'll do here shortly. Ooh. He didn't, but that's fine. The important thing is we did not fall off there. Falling off in that fight is very unfortunate, as once you kind of get going with the fight, it's very difficult to get back up on top of the Cavehead, as that's the only way you can do any type of damage, really. On the eyes, but that was a pretty good fight. Despite it kind of having to be a little patient there as to not get thrown off, because again, once you get thrown off, Cavehead just kind of goes into a fit, and it makes it really difficult to get back up to the top, because he starts like throwing his head about, and you can't do anything to get back up there. So some more swimming here, and making our way to go fight Jafar now. As I spoke earlier, this first fight is a little tricky. And there is a way to manipulate the fight if things go kind of haywire, so hopefully we don't have to resort to that, but if we do, we'll have a way to kind of keep the fight under control for the most part. So we're going to open up immediately with an air hit to stall Jafar here, and we're going to climb up and do a 1-2, or 1 hit and a blizzard. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause Jafar to want to try and bubble, and unfortunately did not get him in a good spot, so I'm going to have to kind of do the manip there. You have to be very careful with the timing on the hits there in order to kind of keep him under control. And the reason I followed up again quickly with another blizzard was just so was so that we could get Jafar to do that same type of maneuver. Just this time he doesn't do the bubble, he just goes straight into doing his little staff attack. And we want that, because if we don't do the hit into another blizzard, Jafar starts going around the arena like crazy, and it's very tough to get him back under control at that point. So thankfully we're able to kind of keep it under control, still get a good good enough fight, even though it wasn't perfect, but the important thing was just keeping him under control. So we're going to go ahead and do a bunch of blizzards here until Iago comes over. And then we're going to switch targets to Iago, do a full combo the first time, and then we're just going to continue to do 1-2s. Really praying that Iago... Oh, Iago's going to do it dirty. Iago's going to do it dirty. Iago's going to do it dirty! Okay, we were able to save that. We don't want Iago to immediately start going back away from Jafar. We want Iago to kind of stall there and then start going across back the same way that he came from, as that's the extended version of that lamp portion, which allows us to be able to do a quick 1 cycle. Thankfully, we were able to still get a 1 cycle before Iago got away, because otherwise, if Iago gets away there, it makes it really tough. But we would have been able to still do blizzards on Jafar to finish the fight as an alternative, as Jafar can still be damaged with magic to finish out the fight. So now we're going to Death Abuse here. You don't have to actually complete this carpet section, so we need to, since we're on beginner, we need to try and get in as much damage as possible in order to Death Abuse here, and it'll actually get us out of here a little quicker than if we were to do the entire carpet ride. And we were able to have a pretty good section there with getting knocked out. Again, that'll save about 5 seconds from having to do the entirety of the carpet ride. But that's it for Agrabah. Agrabah is definitely one of the tougher worlds just because there's so much that can go wrong in a hurry, whether it's pot centipede, getting black fungus. Because again, if you get black fungus, you have to exit the room and go back in. And it's a pain because it's just that much more time that you gotta deal with loading zones. Excuse me. So now we're making our way to the next world. It's not really a world, but we're gonna get eaten by a giant whale. And that giant whale is Monstro from Pinocchio. So we're gonna get to see Geppetto and Pinocchio and being on the inside of Monstro's belly, pretty much. And this is a, again, quote-unquote world. There's no actual keyhole here, so it's not anything that we'll actually be going to later on that you'd see in Endgame, because there's no actual keyhole for Monstro. The cool thing with this, actually, is that regardless of which direction you go, whether you decide to go up from Agrabah or down from Agrabah, you will see Monstro. The reason that we go up instead of the down pathing is because this is the shorter pathing to start Monstro, and on top of that, the next world that we're going to will be instant as well, which will be coming up after we finish up with Monstro here. Also, enjoy my couch team. I know you guys and gals can't exactly see, but that black blob that's to the left of my shoulder is my cat Umbreon. She is majestic as all can be, and she usually isn't really out here all that much for runs, but I guess today she's like, I'm going to be there to support my dad. So I have a couch team in the form of cats. Yeah, this world is going to go pretty quickly as well. It's a very straightforward world. We're not going to try and do a cool trick called Chambers. Don't remember which chamber, but there's a skip that you can do, which I believe saves about 10 to 15 seconds, depending on how things are. there's a chamber skip that you can do, which helps you to kind of get through all of the chambers of Monstro faster to get to the first fight. I have not really done the chamber skip in any of my runs, so I'm not going to try and do it right now. So we're going to be running through all the chambers that we need to in order to get to in order to get to the first fight. I believe it's chamber 2. I think it's that very first little drop right there, and a lot of it I think has to do with the camera, and also sometimes the delay of the load. Another important thing that I kind of forgot to point out, camera angles in this game are very important, as they determine the direction that the camera's facing when you go into a new zone, for the most part. So unlike some of the other, unlike with like 2FM, where you can enter the room completely sideways, it'll always point you in the right direction. So if you were to enter a room completely backwards, the camera will be pointed in that same direction. So this first fight is literally just do a bunch of full air combos here. You want to hope that Riku and them don't get involved, because you want to try and keep the stagger there on the first parasite cage. And that's literally all there is to that first fight. This world is probably one of the simpler ones, as it really just is touching up on the basics of being efficient with your air combo, and also just hoping that Donald and Goofy don't screw things up. And Riku can also get involved with screwing things up, to where even though you're doing the full air combo, Parasite Cage won't be staggered anymore, so it's just better to hope that Riku and the gang don't get involved. Oh, I forgot one more ability. Like, we didn't put on high jump. That would have been a bit of a disaster there. So we need high jump in order to get up to this next area, which is kind of convenient that the game is like, hey, here's a chest that contains your next ability called high jump, because you kind of need it to progress through this next little section here. So we're going to dodge roll back on the start of this fight, and then we're going to go forward. The reason is because Parasite Cage always opens with that attack. And now we're just, again, same thing, doing a bunch of air combos here, hoping... Unfortunately, Donald was attacking the head of Parasite Cage, which is what we don't want. If Donald does that when you go to do a combo, it opens the mouth of Parasite Cage, which we don't want to have happen. We want to keep this staggered the entire way for the fight, as it's much faster. Normally, if the mouth opens, you just want to do a bunch of 1-2s, but I was just full sending it with full air combos to try and keep a good solid pace there. And it's just another one of those things where the boys can get in the way of a good fight and cause you to lose time, and it's just out of your hands, unfortunately. Because when the mouth opens up, if you do 1-2s, you can extend the time before Parasite will close his cage back up and start attacking again. But it's a lot slower since you can't do finishers. So Monstro just spat us out and is going to spit us back out to Grabah. We're going to go ahead and go back to the world map. And we're going to go back to Monstro, as we're going to pick up a very important item known as Water Gleam. What Water Gleam is it's a summon which allows us to summon Dumbo to the field. And we're going to be using Dumbo a little bit later on in the run to do a couple very important skips, which is going to save a lot of time. So we'll have a little bit of downtime here, if we have any donations at this time.
All right, we do have a couple of donations. We have a $50 donation from Taser1, who says, a great marathon and a great cause. Donation goes towards the rare candy main before the championship in Pokemon Emerald Randomizer. Well, that's great. Thank you very much for that. We also have a $5 donation from Karaoke, who says $5 towards Sumair for Haganumi Tyson Column's character incentive because she's the best girl. Well, if you think otherwise, get your donation in for the character and write it in the comment. We also have a $5 donation from Anonymous. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the trip from Monstro to our next world, which is Halloween Town, is a very short trip, which is super nice because if we had decided to go to the bottom and then decided to go to Halloween Town, because Halloween Town is going to be much faster to do than the other world that would be optional to continue on, it would be a very long trek just to get to this world. So that's the reason why that we go to the top way to summon Monstro. Aside from the fact that it's just quicker that way to get to Monstro, but it also makes it a much quicker trip from Monstro to Halloween Town. This world's actually kind of a fun world. We're going to get a lot of this, display of magic and some neat movement tricks in this world as well, including everybody's favorite Oogie Manor climb, which will be coming up here in a little while. This world can also kind of suck, mainly because of RNG, as there's a couple parts in this world where we can get black funguses, which we don't want to see again because we then have to leave the zone and go back and come back again, and it just eats up a lot of time, unfortunately. So we used that power up that we picked up there just to kind of help increase our damage output even further. And the item that we threw on was Ray of Light, which gives us an extra MP bar, and we're going to use that to our advantage here. Dodge roll up to this area here, do a couple blizzards on those guys, and then 3 blizzards here. Fortunately, this White Knight here got away, so we're going to have to do some cleanup. And that's it for the little graveyard fight there. So this split that's coming up right now, a lot of there's some runners that have some fun with it. There's a little section in this part where it's a number game. There's a sequence of 3 numbers. So I want to see if anyone can correctly pick the order. It can be the same number all 3 times, so keep that in mind. It's 1 through 7. So if you want to take your guess and see if you can guess correctly, just to have a little bit of fun with it. So we got white mushrooms here, which is actually kind of a good thing. 1, it conserves on magic, but also 2, it's a little bit faster than having to try and go through some of the enemies in order to be able to access this little grave, I don't know, or tombstone, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word, but so we got 2, 4, and 3. I accidentally hit the wrong one because the target switched. So now we've got 4, 7, 2. So that's another thing to be careful about with this, because even though I had briefly had 4 shown, the target can be a little finicky, so sometimes you just got to be careful to make sure that the target doesn't switch like it did there on me. So we're seeing black funguses right now, which is hopefully going to be a good sign. Usually they won't show up twice in a row, but there's always that chance that they will show up back-to-back times going there. And what we did was, instead of going all the way back through multiple loading zones, we took that we went through that back door there to go to that room, and took that and lit a fire on that little lift, which takes us over to the little graveyard section, which is going to help save us a little bit of time on the way back. Because on our way back, we'll be able to take that exact same little lift to transition immediately over to that room instead of having to go through a couple rooms and also fight all the enemies that are in this room in order to access the little tomb, the graveyard. Because normally you'd have to fight all of these guys in order to access the little tombstone. This is exactly what we want to see. So when you come over, if your thing is blue, immediately just leave, because that means that you got black fungus. Even though it doesn't show that you're in a fight immediately, the black fungus are roaming over there by where that RP was. So it doesn't trigger it right away, but you don't have enough time to get to this little activator here to go over the tail before you're considered in the fight. So it's just quicker to just leave and come back over. So now this is the tricky part for newer runners. This is the infamous Oogie Manor climb, which there was a lot of people involved with discovering that you can actually climb Oogie Manor this way. As a matter of fact, if you were to... Oh, we fell, but that's fine. We didn't fall all the way down. There is a world record history on this game, actually, that Saiyans did. That goes over the history of this game and also everything that was involved with how things have progressed to how they are now. So if you want to try it, if you want to check that out at some time, I definitely would give that a good look, as he put a lot of work into it, and there were a lot of runners involved with all the research that went into all the tricks, all the tech, and everything else as well. And that was a really good fight. So with the children here, we wanted to go backwards and do a bunch of blizzards over and over again. And so I'm just really happy that they weren't running rampant, because they can run like crazy, and these kids can actually put you in danger of getting hurt in a hurry. So thankfully they were able to cooperate with us and just do a bunch of quick blizzards, and it just was really awesome that fight went really well, because there's times where that fight does not go well and you're gonna have to cure, and it's a pain, because you can die very quickly in that fight if you're not if things aren't careful there. So right at the start here, we're going to try and jump, do a blizzard, which is going to immediately get these gargoyles down here, because once you attack one of the gargoyles at least once, you'll be able to send them down here. And we're going to try and roll into one of these switches and not have Donald and Goofy follow us. So unlike some fights, this fight is based on hits before Oogie sends you back down, and you get 10 hits before he sends you down. And if Donald and Goofy get involved, the damage from them is not that great, and it just makes for a really long fight. Oh, we almost got the dice reflect! Almost got it! So, when Oogie launches his dice blocks down there, the non-explosive ones, we have a chance to reflect his dice back at him, and it allows us to immediately move into the second phase of activating a switch. I'm going to try again force Oogie to kind of move on over, because I don't really like where he's at. But I'm going to go for here, because at least Donald and Goofy can't jump up. Gotta unlock from Oogie so I can get up to him. Otherwise, if I stayed on Oogie, I would unfortunately not be able to jump up, as Sora would be trying to swing towards Oogie, which we don't want to try and do. We want to just swing up as soon as we can, unlocked. That way we can actually make that jump. Seiko, I am paying attention a little bit here and there to the SpeedGaming chat, just to try and answer any questions people have. So I'm really happy that you had a chance to catch this run. you'll have to hit me up because I'm not sure who you actually are. But that's really awesome that you were able to find me and since high school. So, but now we're on the Oogie Manor here. We're gonna try and do this in a particular order here, and hopefully not have any troubles. So we're gonna take care of these first couple little pimples on Oogie, and then we're gonna roll down to this one right here. I'm gonna have to angle myself here because otherwise I'm gonna fall off. And the reason I do a full combo on that one is just because once you start popping more of these dark pimples, the fire starts coming out a lot more often, and it makes it really difficult, especially if you're not able to reflect one of those fires back into the pimple. So we're going to try the very famous mist jump. Unfortunately, failed it twice, so I'm just going to kind of move on. There was a jump that will forever change how this fight is done, known as the mist jump. Mist discovered that there was a way to hop up to that ledge without having to go all the way around. And I believe it was done in one of his world record runs forever ago, that basically went down forever, known as the mist jump. And I think it saves like 5 to 8 seconds because instead of having to go all the way around like I did, you jump up at a certain point and you can ledge grab to move on to the final pimple. So that's it for Halloween Town. We're going to be making our way, hopefully, to Neverland. And I say hopefully for a reason. So there is a 70% chance, because in our any percent run, that we get Hook Ship, which is our access to Neverland. And there's a 30% chance of us not getting it. However, those chances don't change. Those odds are the same every single run. It just never feels like it sometimes. There's some runners who've had multiple runs where they've had really good runs get killed because Hook decided that he just didn't want to show up. So sometimes that 70% feels like a 20% chance. And even if we miss it on the first try, there's still a chance that we'll miss it on the second and third and fourth, and so on until we finally get it. If we end up missing it on the first try, we're going to end up going to Atlantica's world, but we're not going to actually enter Atlantica. We're going to be using Atlantica as our new spot to go from, as the distance from Atlantica to Neverland is shorter. So if we end up missing Hook Ship, it's a quicker reset than going from Halloween Town to try and hit Hook Ship. And we'll know at a certain point if we got it, because there's going to be a fade out of all the background here at a certain point coming up that'll identify whether or not we actually got it. And it's going to be this spot right here. So if this doesn't fade out, we didn't get it. And we got it first try. Let's go. This basically determines a lot of outcomes in runs early on. And it sucks because for a lot of runners, you know, this is something like that's about an hour 15 in. And it's just, yeah. There's still ways to PB despite missing Hook Ship on the first try, but you have to hope and pray that you get it on the second try. Otherwise, there's almost no chance. Because I think it's like a guaranteed 45-second loss on the first miss. And then I think it's 25 to 30 from there for each miss afterwards. And that's before we've even gotten to the hardest fight of this world, which is Anti-Sora. So if you have a bad Anti-Sora fight on top of missing Hook Ship, your run is probably dead in the water, but it just depends on how things have been for you.
What is it, Pink?
Yeah, any runner pretty much screams with joy internally seeing Hook Ship on the first go. So, definitely a sigh of relief that we got it on the first go. So now, like I said, we are on our way to one of the hardest fights of this world, and probably within this game, just because there's so much that can go wrong. Goofy pushing Anti-Sora, Anti-Sora just not cooperating, and we're gonna be using kind of I use kind of a hybrid stop strat. So once I get Sora, Anti-Sora paused, I do a full combo. Unfortunately, kind of weird situation there, so I'm just kind of let that ride. And we're gonna stop him again. I'm hoping Donald will actually kind of heal me here, because this is kind of a... Oh, I gotta heal. Okay, thank you, Donald. I'm gonna have to heal. But Goofy's been kind of pushing him around a lot, so he's probably gonna break, unfortunately. Yeah, like he did there. At a certain point at his HP, he will start breaking apart into multiples, so we're just going to do the best that we can with that. And I like to try and target switch the best that I can, just so that way it's a lot easier to quickly get to him a lot quicker. Oh, I didn't mean to do another air hit there. This is fine. That's not fine. Alright, not bad. It gets a little dicey once, especially going for stop strat, just because you're using pretty much all your MP resources towards stop. There's actually a way to skip that cutscene a little bit sooner. I still don't quite know the timing on it, but we'll get there eventually. So we're going to go ahead and throw on Tornado for Goofy, Cheer, and Second Wind. And we're going to take off Peter Pan's first 3 abilities, because we don't want Peter using any of his MP. We're going to throw on Ray of Light and Raven's Claw. And that is it for our menu. And the reason that we have to do the menus there is because once we hop down, Peter Pan is out of our party. Until we get back to Hook. So any customization that we need to do with Peter Pan, we cannot do at all for the rest of the time that we're here. So if you forget to unequip any abilities, forget to change his output to use his MP items immediately, it'll make things really tough, because we want Peter Pan to pretty much use his items solely on us with the strat that we're going to be utilizing here. So we're going to summon Simba right off the bat. We're going to charge Simba up just a little bit to kill the first wave of ads. And then we're going to full charge from there to kill the rest of the ads to a certain point. The last enemy that will still be on the field will be a ship. And that's fine. We're going to go ahead and do a bunch of air hits on the ship, the pirate ship, until it's gone off the field. So it's going to spawn in right now. We're going to go ahead and charge it. And the reason we want to try and have Simba on the field as much as possible is so Goofy doesn't have any chance to use MP. Because Peter Pan, with him being registered the way that he is, has a chance to just immediately toss stuff to Goofy, which we don't want to have. So we're going to go ahead and do stop here, do a full combo, and cast stop as soon as we are done with the full air combo. We're going to go ahead and cast stop again a little early, because we were kind of in a bad spot there with whiffing. And we're just going to keep doing this little loop over and over again until the fight is done. There is a certain point to know like how many stops you've done, so that way it's easier to keep track of. Unfortunately, we did whiff a couple attacks there, but that's fine. Still a pretty good fight despite that. This fight is it is a little easy to kind of lose control of the fight, just because sometimes the Hurricane Blast attack that we're doing on Hook for the finisher can whiff, and also sometimes, depending on where Hook is positioned, can also cause that to happen as well. The other major factor in that fight is that pirate ship that was behind us. The pirate ship's little missiles that it shoots are healing bombs. So if those were to touch Hook, it would start healing Hook. And not only is that bad for a number of reasons, but it really extends out the fight. And it makes it not a good time. So thankfully that fight went well, and we're going to be moving now back to Traverstown to close things out there. So remember the tower bell that rang? We're going to be going and taking care of business for that now. Now that we've got a really awesome Keyblade and Fairy Harp, which we're going to be using for quite a while here. We also have an awesome ability called Ars Arcanum, which you all saw in my Super Boss sequence, where we were using Ars Arcanum quite a bit to dish out a lot of damage. And we're going to throw on those. We're going to throw on Guard and also Ars Arcanum there. And once again, Chip and Dale are talking to us about how things have gotten stronger and some new enemies have appeared, kind of, and how we should, and also some new tourneys. But we're going to ignore all that because we don't even actually know about the tourney technically since we haven't been there. So yeah. So now we're going to go ahead, and this is kind of the route that I take. I go to Magician Study. There is a little faster of a way. This is the way that I prefer right now. I go immediately and get Dumbo. Do 2 dodge rolls here, and we're going to glide over these rocks as it's a little bit faster than trying to jump from rock to rock, as we don't have to worry about the pattern of the rocks. We can just glide over until we're back on solid ground. And we're going to go ahead and quickly dodge roll our way. Again, this is our quickest movement that we have available, because even though we have glide is actually just there to kind of get us over distances. It's not really meant to cover ground quickly, unlike an ability that we'll get later, unfortunately in the end game sequence, so we don't really get a whole lot of usage out of it, but we're still going to get usage of it. So here all these little guys here are basically one tap easily, so we're just going to Ars Arcanum the whole squad there, hopefully. Since they all die instantly, because we're so crazy strong right now, in comparison, because this world is still basically at the starting level that it was at when we first started the game. And the levels on these enemies won't change for a little while, until after we rescue Kairi. Once we rescue Kairi, however, all of these enemies get a bit of a stat buff, from their HP to their attack, their defense. I also forgot to ring the bell one more time. That would have been awkward. And so we're going to see a very familiar foe. We're going to see Guard Armor very briefly. Guard Armor is just here as a filler, in which then he's going to turn into Opposite Armor. So basically he just flips upside down, and thus Opposite Armor is born. Yeah, Nemi, it was a cat. So we're going to wait for him to attack here and guard, and we're going to go straight into an Ars Arcanum here. Hopefully he'll try and do it again since I've got enough MP. And that was unfortunate, but that's okay. Just going to start doing a bunch of attacks here to try and get rid of these limbs. Because we want to try and get rid of all these limbs, because otherwise we can't continue to finish the boss here. Because unlike with Guard Armor the first time, there wasn't a whole lot that we could do otherwise to dish out damage to the boss. And normally, depending on your MP, you can get off 2 Ars Arcanums, which will really help speed up the fight, because since Ars does so much damage in a quick amount of time, it makes it really easy to destroy a limb or two rather quickly. And so after that fight, we're going to go talk to Sid here one more time. He's going to install the new Gummy navigation that we just acquired. And we're going to start making our way to Hollow Bastion. Traverstown and Hollow Bastion are the only two worlds, aside from End of the World, of course, that are not Disney related. So those are the only two worlds that we visit in this entire game, again, aside from End of the World, that are non-Disney related worlds. And Sid will give us a little gummy there, known as Transform G. If you were to make another ship, you can actually use that gummy combined with the current gummy that you have to transform over into that gummy. But it does cost MP to be able to do that. But we have no use for that gummy, so we're just going to continue on with what we're doing here. And we're going to go ahead and replace our Fire G with Flare G, since Flare G is a faster engine. You would think, why not just replace the Fire G, or the Fire G? As far as I know, there's not really any difference if you were to have Flare G and Fire G on. So it's just quicker and also easier to just replace Fire G with Flare G. And once again, we'll have a little bit of downtime here, so if there are any donations or anything like that, or want to talk about the event, now is a good time here.
This is the SpeedGaming Spring Marathon benefiting No Kid Hungry,
Yeah, the small
a charity with the mission of ending childhood hunger.
The small echo, unfortunately, is probably coming from my TV feeding in. I have the sound down as much. Okay. So oddly enough, this little cutscene that we saw, and where Sora's like saying this warmth, it feels so familiar, and even the fact that he's like, I feel like I've been here before, is kind of a bit of foreshadowing in a way. Just for the simple fact, if you've played the other Kingdom Hearts games in the series, you learn about how Roxas is, or well, Ventus, sorry. Roxas is also part of Sora, but Ventus at this point is part of Sora, and Ventus has been the Hollow Bastion before, or better known as Radiant Garden, and so that's part of why everything in that's part of why everything kind of is the way that it is with how Sora's reacting. We just don't know it yet at the time, and until we've played more of the series. So now, we've lost our Keyblade, actually. Riku took that from us because Riku believes that he's the chosen one. And feels like that he deserves to be the one to save Kairi. The Keyblade decides that for some reason Riku all of a sudden is the chosen one to wield the Keyblade, so he gets our Keyblade, and now we're stuck playing with a wooden sword for the time being, until we go to fight Riku here in a little bit. And with us having the wooden sword, the only thing we can really do, which we're about to do, is use like gravity magic. Gravity magic is about the only thing that we can really do that will actually do anything to any of the Heartless, because it's based on, it's HP based, it's not really based on anything else. So we're going to go ahead and roll forward here, and cast that on, oh, I did it too soon. Let's do that again. So we want to flatten the defender there, because not only will he have had a huge chunk of his health get taken out from that initial gravity, but Beast will also come in afterwards and clean that up immediately. So now we're going to make our way back through this little maze. There's only two switches we have to hit on the way back, unlike when we were going through this initially. So we only have to hit those two switches to get out of here. My first time ever going through this for a run, I completely forgot what switch did what, so I ended up hitting the wrong switch at least a good few times, and even after runs, even a few runs later, there were still times where I'd be like, is it this switch I was supposed to hit? And then after a while, it finally clicked that, alright, it's just those two switches and we're good to go. So we dodge rolled away from all those dark balls. I call them meatballs because they look like they are heartless meatballs. And we wanted to despawn them so that we can access the lift there, because similar to everything else, when our bar is red, we can't interact with anything. And since we can't do anything and don't want Beast burning any of his items, we just simply dodge roll away, get those 3 to despawn, and then it allows us to access the lift as soon as it turns blue. So we got our Keyblade back. And this fight, unfortunately, as well, is a bit of RNG. We want Goofy to hopefully do his job in keeping Riku close to us. And also hope that Riku doesn't go zooming all over the... Oop, did not use gravity here. Since I've got some extra ethers in the run, I can go ahead and just pop a couple and be able to follow up with another arse just to kind of try and keep things under control for this fight. Which, right now, Riku's kind of being a pain. Would not be a run otherwise if Riku decided to be an absolute butt and not work with us here. A bit of it also falls on Goofy, as Riku will just basically clash right off of his shield, and it'll keep him in place a lot better. The next Riku fight will be a lot better, as we have more control and say in how that fight goes over how this one goes. But for the time being, we now get to work our way through the library in order to continue on through Hollow Bastion. As there's a Heartless door that we can't access right now, and there are 4 puzzle pieces that we're going to go acquire, which requires us to go through all of this library here. And after that, we'll be able to start doing a bunch of small little things to get these pieces back, so that we'll be able to progress more through Hollow Bastion here, and then get our first look at Dumbo coming up here in about a few minutes or so. So right away, we're going to lock onto that, those candles there, do a target switch, and do 2 jumping fires. The jumping fires are just a little bit faster than doing ground-based fires, as you can kind of progress your way towards the next stuff versus doing ground-based fires. Because while you're doing the jumping fires, you're able to kind of keep moving Sora in the direction that you need to be moving, just to kind of speed up how things are going. Once we take care of all of these, we'll be going all the fire candles. Oh, not that one. Once we light up all these candles, we'll be able to access this piece here in the middle, and we'll start collecting all 4 pieces as they're all now available. And there is a way to use Thunder to make those lifts go up and down, but since we don't have Thunder, can't do anything about that, and even then, we don't really need to do that for our run, so it's not necessary. That's more if you were to fall off for any reason from the top, you'd be able to use those you'd be able to use the lift to get yourself back up to that top level without having to go through all of the library. I'm rolling the wrong way. So we're going to be jumping over. There's a couple of little cool tricks here that you can do, but I'm not consistent with it right now, so I'm not going to burn the MP to try and do it. So if you were to use gravity on these wyverns here, you can actually make them fall. You can also use stop if you really wanted to do a little bit of damage, including a gravity, and be able to make those wyverns fall down and be able to access that final chest there for our gummy stuff rather quickly. Because after that, we're going to glide over to there, skipping a bunch of stuff, including an enemy trigger. There's a certain spot over there where we would technically trigger an enemy spawn. So by gliding over there and the way that we did, it allows us to not trigger that spot. So now we get to fight 3 wizards here. There's going to be one behind where Sora's at, one over there, and one over here. Hopefully Donald and Goofy will do their job and focus up on the other wizards. Goofy unfortunately followed me, so kind of unfortunate, but thankfully the wizard had a failed teleport, so he didn't go anywhere at all. Gonna preset Dumbo here. So I learned a lesson the very hard way. Don't have your camera angle pointed out here, because once again, camera angles are very important in 1FM. So even though this is going to spit us out in this direction with the camera facing in this direction, if you had your camera facing the other way, when you go to move, Sora would be facing that way. In my last PB that I had, I dodge rolled right off the ledge because I never knew that was a thing for elevator. So I have basically a free minute of time save there for that very reason, because I dodge rolled right off the ledge. And had to go through, thankfully didn't fall any further, but had to go through all of the elevator ride once again just to get to that point. So now we're going to dodge roll over here, and we're going to summon Dumbo. Dumbo is going to allow us to skip having to go all the way around and go through these Heartless blocks. Instead, we'll be able to dismiss Dumbo immediately once we get to a certain height and move on to the lift shop. That overall will save about a minute, because you'd have to fight all of the Heartless on the other side where the Heartless block would be at that you normally would have to do. And on top of that, you have to then try and activate the switch quickly and traverse everything just to get to the lift shop. So right off the bat here, we're going to dodge roll up, do a quick little air hit to get ourselves up onto this thing. We're going to do an Ars Arcanum here, and as soon as Maleficent does this, we're going to do a bunch of air hits. Because while she's doing this, we don't want to do any Ars Arcanum, and it's just faster for us to do this. And it also kind of prevents her from doing anything crazy, but unfortunately I kind of screwed that up a little bit. But as long as I don't fall down, which is going to happen, we'll be able to continue to fight a little bit quicker, but that's alright. We're going to use a quick gravity here to pull that down, because that's all it takes. And then we're going to follow up with an Ars Arcanum and end the fight. There's a pretty good method to being able to do that in a nice little one cycle. I just unfortunately screwed that up there. So now this is by far my favorite fight in the entire run. Um, it's one of the very first fights that I actually learned in the run. Um, and I'm just going to show it off, and then I'll explain it while I'm on my way to the next fight. So just hopefully we'll be able to pull it off, and hopefully y'all can enjoy this. Alright, unfortunately this did not go super well. I lost my jump. I'm gonna full send it. I'm probably gonna die. That's alright. Yeah, unfortunately my jump got eaten, so I wasn't able to jump back up immediately, so I kind of had to recast stop early, which broke Dragon Mal out of this position that I needed her to be at in order to have a good fight. Oh, that's a bad spot. Alright, where are you at? There you are. I gotta heal. Yeah, unfortunately, again, I gotta I gotta get a new controller at some point, but I've had my jump get eaten a number of times in that fight, which really makes it hard to continue the loop. But basically, the awesome strat is it's an itemless strat. So normally I wouldn't be using any kind of item. The only reason I used the ether there was just to make sure I got through it without burning that mega elixir I had. But there's a way to do that entire fight without using any kind of item. So we do a full air combo after we cast stop. We do a quick 1-2, recast stop, and then just repeat that over and over again. And at some point, you will, if you really want to, depending on how damaged it is, cast stop again a little early, deeper into the fight, just to kind of make sure that she doesn't break away. So here we're going to open up with a 1-2 on air hit on Riku, and follow up with a quick little Ars Arcanum. I think it was a 1-2-3, but that's okay. We're going to follow up. Alright, Riku. Alright, we'll make this work. So now Riku is powering up. So we're going to do one. Oh, nope, he's broke free. It's fine. Do the jump. Do the jump. So we're going to do 1, 1, 2, 3. He's going to retaliate. 1, 1, 2, 3. Retaliate. 1, 1, 2, 3. Retaliate. 1. Oh, I did it too soon. So we want to delay the first ground hit afterwards for the simple fact of we want to be able to keep him in that type of looping, which allows us to be able to DM skip him. Ooh, he really wanted to DM again. It's alright, we'll be able to get through it. I need him to do that side jump again. Go around 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. And I do kind of a hybrid of the I sometimes do a hybrid of the air combo and ground combo strat, just because my air combos are not super consistent. So I kind of did a mixture there where I do the one ground hit and then follow up with a quick 1, 2, 3. The thing I did wrong there towards the end was because I'm doing the quick 1, 2, 3, I have to have a bit better timing when I go to do that first hit after he retaliates. Otherwise, he doesn't stagger and will break free again. And at that point where we're at in that fight, he's pretty much in DM City, and we're lucky that realistically he shouldn't have DM'd again as soon as he did, but there's no telling with what he'll do, because once Riku starts DMing, it can be an absolute DM fest from there. He's a lot like Zigbar in 2FM, where if you get DM'd by him once, he's probably going to DM you again just because he likes to. But that is the end of our first trip to Hollow Bastion. We're going to be getting sent automatically back to Traverstown here. And we're going to quickly make our way through to get the last Navi Gummy here. Which once we finish up with this world, we're going to be able to move on to the final world. And the reason for this new Navi Gummy is it allows us a back way into it allows us to have a back entry into Hollow Bastion, because now that things are a lot worse with the Heartless, basically the normal pathing in the initial way is saying that it's too dangerous because there's so many new Heartless now because everything's multiplying. So we're going to talk to Sid real quick. He's going to tell us about this Navi Gummy down below in the Waterway. And we're going to do another little warp here. We're going to go back into the accessory shop and we're going to warp over to Merlin's. And the reason for that is, since we already have access to the Waterway, even though it's not open, we just have to simply talk to Merlin here real quick, and he'll give us the option to go down to the cavern, which is much faster again than taking the entire little walkway to go on down to this Waterway. We don't have to talk to Kyrie. We just go right up to that, and it'll trigger that. See if I break the game. Broke the game. So there's a nice little glitch where if you dodge roll off to the side when you go to activate that cutscene, Sora will basically appear on top of Kyrie, and after the cutscene starts playing, there's going to be a bunch of silly animations going on with Sora, and also at some point, Sora's not even going to be there. He's going to be off in some La La Land instead of being right there next to Kyrie. It's just a little funny thing to see. If you get the chance to do it yourself, definitely do it. Or if you want to look it up, I definitely would. It's kind of funny to see what happens. So we're going to go back to the accessory shop one more time. And we're going to go talk to Sid here, so he can install the final Navi Gummy that we need in order to progress back to Hollow Bastion here. And at that point, we're going to leave Traverstown for the final time and progress on to Hollow Bastion second visit. And this is going to be where Dumbo is really going to shine in terms of how things are done. And we're also going to install our final gummy piece to our ship, which is that last HG that we picked up. So real quick, back into our garage. I'm going to quickly go over to our special little items here and toss that final HG right there. Save the ship one more time. And we're going to progress to this wormhole over here. And this one's going to allow us the back entry to Hollow Bastion. The fun thing with this, it was discovered and I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But I believe the person that discovered this little trick was Spike Vegeta, actually. So there's going to be a certain point on this back trip where when the scene goes to transition to the color to a certain point on this route, we'll actually be able to exit this route and immediately warp drive to Hollow Bastion. I don't still understand quite the reasoning behind why that is, but I don't know how much time it actually saves either. Actually, I haven't actually asked about that, but it saves, as far as I know, it does save quite a bit of time because there's still quite a bit you gotta navigate to get to Hollow Bastion again. So right here, as soon as this screen starts to transition, right about there, you can exit out back to Select World. Oh, I did it too soon! Oh, I did it too soon! I'm so sorry. I did it just a little too soon that time. I needed to give it just a moment more to have fully triggered the switch over. So unfortunately, we got to backtrack again all the way to that point, which is gonna eat up a little bit of time, unfortunately. We were just a hair too early on going back to the world map. So, if you end up doing it too soon, like I did right there, you won't be able to access Hollow Bastion. It'll still have it sealed off. So I'm gonna be a little bit more careful with the timing on it this time. I'll probably let it go a little further than normal, just to fully make sure that we get it. So right about there. And just like that, we can now warp to Hollow Bastion and don't have to finish out the rest of the Gummy trip there. So this time around, we're going to maintain Beast in our party. We're going to change a couple things with him here in a little bit, and also throw on a bunch of stuff, including our new Keyblade that we picked up after we talked to Kyrie with the Oath Keeper. The Oath Keeper is amazing Keyblade, not only in terms of strength, but also its magic capabilities. It's not as strong as some of the other Keyblades, but the main reasons that we want it is more or less for the magic. But with everything that's been routed into the game now, it's a lot more doable with that Keyblade. So what we're going to do here, as soon as we do 2 dodge rolls, we're going to move up just a smidge, and we're going to go back immediately and summon Dumbo. I probably did that a little too slow, but we want to try and minimize the amount of enemies that spawn there, because this Dumbo skip is actually very particular, to the point where if we're not quick enough or anything like that, we can actually end up triggering these enemies over here, which is probably going to happen. Yeah, I was a little too slow because I wanted to kind of just lost my own thought there for a moment, so I apologize. So we're just going to quickly clean these guys up. Normally, we wouldn't have to worry about cleaning this up. We can just skip them. But because of how things are, kind of in a bit of a pickle here. Where is he at? Oh, he's... Okay, he spawned back in. Unfortunate. Thank you, Goofy. Yeah, the second Dumbo skip on, which is the first Dumbo skip going to Hollow Bastion, second visit, is definitely a tricky one to maneuver. Because you don't want to spawn in too many Heartless, and you also want to be very careful with a couple other things. I'm going to go ahead and give Beast a Mega Ether here, just for the sake of making sure that I kind of keep things good there. We're going to take off Ferocious Lunge and put on Critical Plus. We're going to take off Goofy's Tornado, put on Second Chance, MP Rage, and MP Gift, and Donald is going to get Cheer and Leaf Bracer. Oh, and the last thing is we're now going to take off Stop in our shortcut and customize Gravity. Gravity is going to be used pretty much the rest of the run once we get out of this world, so we want to have that shortcutted for a number of reasons, just to make things easier on us. Hopefully Beast will do his AoE Roar, which is what we really want to see. He did it. Hopefully he killed everything, and he did. That's what we want to see. And that's also another reason we have the Critical Plus on for Beast, is just to make things a lot easier on this second trip for the elevator, because since all the enemies are a lot stronger this go around, we want to rely on Beast's Roar a bit there to kind of take care of all those enemies. And having the Critical Plus on also gives a chance for Beast to do more damage and have a more likely chance that he deals a crit to take pretty much everything out. There is a way for him to take all of them out, but it's not usually a thing that'll happen, but usually it would be 1 or 2 enemies potentially left after he does his little AoE Roar. And it's an amazing little attack that he has, which really helps you out with getting through that. So once again, this same Dumbo skip, we're going to dodge roll up, immediately summon Dumbo, and we're going to ascend on up. Same thing as last time. Once we get to the tip top of our ascension, we're going to dismiss Dumbo, ledge grab, and proceed on. That Dumbo skip is probably one of the easier ones to do. The second one, it does take a little bit of time to get used to. Not only the timing of being quick with your Dumbo summon, but also getting to the position in to summon Dumbo as well. The other part to it as well is making sure you don't go far enough to where you summon a number of Heartless. You want to try and only have the Wizard spawn, because it's a lot easier to deal with the Wizard. As the Wizard doesn't typically follow you all that much, whereas the little red Nocturnes there will follow you big time. So we're going to hop up onto the back of the Behemoth here and immediately unleash an Ars Arcanum. And we're going to go ahead and do a full air combo. Try and get as much damage in as possible. And dodge roll out of the way, but then we did not, so that's fine. We can still take another hit here. Oh, that's not good. Ooh, we got lucky. I'm gonna follow up with another Ars Arcanum here, and Goofy's going to give us an MP Gift. This time around I'm going to heal, because if I were to get hit by this, I would more than likely die, so rather than take the chance of us getting hit by that, we're just going to go ahead and do that. Quickly move back here, and try and finish the fight here with that little ground combo. Normally, if MP was a little bit better of a situation, we would probably end the fight with another Ars Arcanum. But just because of the situation with the other Dumbo skip, they kind of put us in a bit of an MP bind there. On that note, I'm going to be right back, as this is all unskippable, so there's going to be a little bit of downtime, and if there are any donations, this will be perfect timing for that.
Well, I would like to read one donation. We have a $5 donation from FuzzBunny10, who says, "Tiny Echo for a great cause. We got to feed the kids. I used programs like this growing up, so I understand the importance of such a worthy cause."
No matter where we
Thanks
are,
very much.
our hearts will bring us together again. Besides, I couldn't forget you even if I wanted to. What's that supposed to mean?
Sora, good luck.
So now we're making our way to the final world in this game. Very fitting that it's called End of the World, or End of World. Pretty much this place is filled with darkness and a lot of the worlds that have been taken. On top of that, and also we'll be visiting a couple worlds that we didn't get to see in this world or in this run, since we do not go to them in any percent. We'll be seeing them very briefly as we have to do a couple fights if we did not seal the keyhole for that world. So there will be 2 worlds that we will be having to fight in real quick a little bit later on in order to continue progressing towards the end. So we're going to get our first look at a new enemy called Invisible. These guys are a bit of a pain, so what we're going to do here at the very start is we're going to cast Gravity and follow up with an Ars Arcanum here. Unfortunately, kind of running a little wild. And right off the bat, they slam their swords into the ground, which is like their version of a DM, which we don't like to see because it just eats up a lot of time. And they're completely invulnerable, unfortunately. And even though this is beginner, this is something I want to point out. Ooh, another DM. That's not good. So even though this is beginner mode, at this point in our run, we're very killable now. And Invisibles and Angelic Lights that we'll see here in a little bit in the next fight, they deal out a lot of damage. So this world can be quite scary even on beginner for a run, just for the sheer fact that at this point everything is really ramped up now. Because technically we're technically underleveled in a way as far as like you would think for defenses, but we're really not. It just everything's super scary is all. Oh, maybe. Alright, we want to try and quickly kill all 3 of these Angelic Guards, because if we don't, a 4th one will spawn, and thankfully we got all 3 quickly. So if you're a little too slow in that fight, a 4th little Angelic Light a 4th Angelic Light will spawn if you're a little too slow in getting rid of the other 2, or the other 3. So if you're able to kill all 3 quickly, you can actually avoid having to fight a 4th one. Because that fight technically has a hidden one that you're supposed to fight, but if you're fast enough, you avoid it altogether. So we're going to go ahead now with Behemoth again. This time, we're going to use Gravity, because now that we're out of Hollow Bastion, these Behemoths are actually weaker to Gravity. So we're going to go ahead and use Gravity a little bit on that. And because our strength is where it's at now with that Omega Arts, we're able to deal with the Behemoth a lot quicker now, on top of that. And we'll be using Gravity a lot throughout this world. Again, like I said, there's going to be a few other fights here that will be going ahead and using Gravity, because Gravity, again, there's no set value on it. It's based purely on, it's an HP based attack. So the more HP that they have, the more damage that is technically done. Yeah, okay. I always get this menu mixed up, so I have to always double check to make sure I had that one right. But their HP based magic, which is what the Gravity is. I had to make sure I'm going the right way here, because I've accidentally entered the wrong way before because of the camera. And so the more HP they have, the more damage is technically done to them. So we're going to go ahead and summon Simba here. One of the 2 worlds that we didn't get to see is Olympus Coliseum. It's not required for any percent, It's more of a side world than anything, and is home to a bunch of the cups, and also including some super boss fights, which we saw on Saturday. So right here at the very start, we're going to get Simba charged up two times. I goofed bad. Just kill me. Thank you. I goofed on the charge. I was thinking of something else for the Simba charge, so I mistimed it. So on at a certain point with the charge, we go ahead and unleash it, which will stun all those air pirates, and then after that, it's just full charges for the last 2 waves here. And I will dismiss Simba, and out the gate we go. And the reason we exit that way with the camera facing the way it is it sets us up again to freely move to the next teleport. And so the next world we're going to see is Atlantica. Again, we're going to be using, or no, sorry, not gravity. That's the next wave. I'm going to be using a bunch of fires here. Those big jellyfish, like Heartless, if you were to attack them physically, you would actually cause them to break into smaller Heartless, which would drag it out a lot longer than needed. All of them? Oh, that was all of them. There's something else to note with that Atlantica portal. You have to wait for the flash before you leave to have it say that you successfully did what you were supposed to do there. If you leave, because that is one of the couple worlds I think that you can actually leave prematurely, and you'd have to redo the whole entire portal to be able to move on. So we're going to move up here, we're going to cast a bunch of gravities, and we're going to go up, follow it up with an Arcanum. Unfortunately, these other ones didn't quite follow, so we're going to have to kind of clean up here. Hopefully they keep him there, which it looks like they did. Good job, boys. I'm going to pick up this Mega Elixir here. Oh, Elixir. Sorry, that's the final chest. Going to go ahead and gravity one more time. These invisibles are going nuts. So normally we would cast a gravity on one, cast a gravity on the other one, and then go back to the original target, and then just do cleanup from there. And now with Chernobog, it's just going to be a bunch of air combos. We're not going to do finishers, as it is a little bit slower. So we're just going to do a bunch of 1, 2, 3s and end the combo and restart it. And where we're at with the defense ups, we're able to take, at full health, we can take 2 hits before we'd have to cure. So I usually try and push it a little bit, depending on what type of attack he's going for, just to try and progress through this fight as quickly as I can. And we're trying to stay as close as possible to his head so that we can continue to get quick air hits in. And it's certain when he goes to push us back, that's where we'll try and squeeze in a finisher or 2, just because he will push us back. So we just want to try and squeeze in as much damage as possible before that happens. He's going to do a fire pillar here. It's an extended one, so we're going to have to cure. We'll be good to cure only one time. He might push us back again. Yep. Unfortunately, we were in a bad spot after the fact, so weren't able to squeeze in a quick kill after that, so I'm going to have to heal again. A little scary. So now, try to get down to the bottom of the volcano there. If you're at the bottom of the volcano after the fight, you'll actually enter the volcano immediately and not have to glide down from where you're at. now we're going to go ahead and equip the Super Glide there and make our way to Final Rest. Final Rest is one of the hardest sections mob-wise because there's so much that can go wrong, and it can go wrong in a hurry. The first fight's not too bad, it's everything else after that can kind of cause problems, even for the best of runners in this game. So what we're going to do here is get on top of the Behemoth, and we're going to cast a bunch of gravities until Goofy gives us an MP gift. And then we're going to do one hit, follow up with an Ars Arcanum. Try and do the full extension there. Kind of fell off, which is what we don't want to necessarily do right away, but that's fine. Hoping to get him to come down, but our damage is real. He might jump. No, he wouldn't jump. Okay, we're good. So I'm gonna not toss a Mega Elixir here. Normally you toss a Mega immediately, but I'm gonna save that for just a moment because we've got enough MP to kind of start this. We want to try and position ourselves in a good spot here to the Dark Balls, so we can start doing a bunch of fires. I'm going to go ahead and toss that Mega now, so that way I get full replenishment on my magic. And we're just going to do a bunch of fire magic here until all of them are taken out. Once we're done, we're going to go towards the heart, do a bunch of gravities here, and follow up with an Ars Arcanum. Sorry, my Ars did not come out for some reason. Donald is dead, which is not good. So I'm going to try to delay. I might die here. Oh, Donald's back on the field. Nice. I don't know when that happened, but cool. Okay, so we're going to wait for him to come over here, because I don't want to be in a bad spot once I kill him. Once you kill the final invisible, you're going to immediately summon Simba, and we're going to do a full charge. And it might seem a little intimidating at first that the full charge is not going to work, but rest assured that it will indeed work. So we're going to hold it. Oh, I didn't fully charge. I know. Yep. Okay. Sorry. Unleashed it just a smidge too soon. This might not work, unfortunately. We might be okay. No, we're okay. We're okay, I think. Nope, we're not okay. Okay, that was my bad. I unleashed it just a smidge too soon, which was not supposed to be the case there. So I apologize. This is going to get a little dangerous, because now we got Angelics and also dealing with Invisibles too at the same time. Realistically, I should heal, but I'm going to hope for the best. Oh, nah, I gotta heal. Sorry, there was a few things going on in the background with my cat, so I kind of lost focus for a moment. The important thing is we don't die. That's the important thing. Because if we die, we have to do the entire thing of Final Rest again. There's also road work going outside my house for some reason, so I have no idea what's going on today, but there's some chaos going on outside. It's like the one day I hoped nothing like that would be the case, but it's alright. Alright, so now that we're done with that, we're going to take off Ray of Light, and we're going to give Goofy Ray of Light. And the reason for that is Goofy is going to go ahead and be the star of the show, not only with his MP gift, but also his MP will be higher, which will allow Goofy to also provide me with more MP magic. Oh, I almost forgot an ability, which we'll put on here in just a moment. Alright, so now we're entering final fights here. So we're back at Destiny Islands, and Destiny Islands is not what it used to be. As we'll see here in the transition, Destiny Islands is basically falling apart. And we see Riku for a moment, but it's not Riku. It's in fact Ansem, who we're going to fight right now. And we're going to hope for a good pattern here with him going into the corner like that. That's what we want to see. We want to keep him in this corner as it makes it a much easier fight to kind of keep him positioned. We don't want Ansem running wild here if we can help it. And unfortunately, he's kind of getting into that territory already. With the attacks that he's doing, he's not being super nice right now. And that's not a good spot, but we'll make it work. To do another Ars Arcanum. Normally, we want to try and keep him in a nice little tight corner because it allows us, even at this point, once he starts going for the submit. That's not good. Alright, this is fine. At least Goofy has it, so it's not as dangerous. Because I'm at least able to freely attack Ansem now without any repercussion of getting held by his bodyguard there. And now I kind of want him to come down here so I can just keep him cornered, at least. Not necessarily a good fight because we want to keep him in that corner, but with everything that happened right off the start and the pattern that we got, we made do with it. So now we're going to pop our cottage here, which is going to recharge our MP going into the next set of fights. And we're going to also put Goofy's Tornado back on. And the only reason we didn't want Goofy Tornado on in the last fight is because we wanted Goofy to basically supply us with MP. We didn't want Goofy using Tornado, basically for that reason. Now we're going to go for a quick kill here on Darkside 3, because Darkside's never out of the fight, clearly, so almost got it. Got stuck on a couple things there, which prevented us from getting a quick kill. We can do some... I didn't mean to do that. But we can do some quick fire agas there to do some damage on his hand. That's not a good start. When he does that attack, it's very dangerous because if you're not careful with your timing, you can easily die. And then you have to redo Darkside 3 again. Hopefully we can get the DM skip, but yeah, as I say, I'm not super good with the DM skip on Ansem 2, unfortunately, so I was gonna definitely try my best to pull it off. It's definitely one of my weaker fights in the run for sure. His DM is not too hard to avoid, just gotta kind of dance around a little bit. And if he tries to do a submit, we'll just dodge roll out of the way, do a quick Ars Arcanum, and follow up with another combo here. Even if he submits us, I'm going to go for something really insane for the sake of getting the fight done. Because once again, with Ars Arcanum, we get some iframes, which allows us to kind of power through his little barrier attack. Any other time, after the fact, I would have probably died because our health was low enough that we would have for sure been killed by his attack there. So now, once again, we're kind of stuck in air fight mode, so it's all about air combos. We're not going to be doing finishers for the most part. Again, we're going to be just trying to do quick 1, 2, 3, 4s since we have the air combo plus. And we're going to be healing here and there just to make sure we don't get killed, and recasting arrow, which is like a protective barrier for us. It decreases the damage that we take, which allows us to be able to kind of stay in and try and fight Ansem 3 here a bit more without having to heal. Otherwise, if you're trying doing it without arrow, you're going to be stuck trying to heal a lot more. And once I get down to a certain point on my HP, I will usually try and cure immediately. And I try and pay attention to when arrow runs out, because arrow can run out at any given time, and when it does, it's really bad. Oh, we didn't quite get the little animation skip there. So that if you dodge roll off of the little pillar there, you're able to do a quick little animation skip and cutscene skip that otherwise you'd have to see. You have to be very careful though on the timing, because if you do it way too soon, you risk dealing with a white screen for the first fight. I think that's mostly like a PC thing, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, I popped a Mega. Okay, that's fine. I just gotta remember to pop a normal elixir here after. So on this little fight here, we're gonna land quickly, do a quick Ars Arcanum, dodge roll over. I tried to go for it, but we might not get it. Got it. I'm gonna back off for a moment here. I don't want to. I normally would try to use an elixir, but since I accidentally did the wrong thing, I didn't want to accidentally use the wrong elixir again. So, gonna go ahead and proceed into our next portal here, which will be with Dark Balls, and we get Goofy back. So once again, gonna follow up with another Ars Arcanum, because Ars Arcanum is just life. And I'm actually going to heal because that's kind of dangerous to try and do with that low of health. Plus I can replenish my MP because of the meatballs here basically giving us a Mega Ether. And so now we're on to the face. We're going to be seeing a lot of Goofy Tornado here, hopefully. What I like to do here is I give Goofy arrow right off the bat. And then I give myself arrow, because Goofy needs to get protected and try and do as much damage as he can before he gets knocked out. So Goofy is the star of the show in this case for this fight, as Goofy does a lot of damage. And again, the more damage Goofy can get in before he gets knocked out, the better. But Goofy got knocked out rather quickly, but he was able to at least do a decent amount of damage, so we're going to try and proceed through this as best as we can before Goofy comes back into play. I'm going to heal real quick because I have a feeling the arrow is very close to running out. So I just wanted to be super safe there. I'm going to go ahead and toss an elixir for myself for this next fight, just because we're going to be dealing with invisibles now, and we want to try and deal with invisibles as quickly as we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right off the bat, we're going to be casting a bunch of gravities here. Hopefully they all come forward, but it doesn't look like they all did. So now we're just kind of in cleanup mode here, just because it is a possibility that they will run a little rampant. Yeah, we had one DM, unfortunately. It's a little RNG with the invisibles as to whether or not they decide to all cooperate and come towards everything at the start. So we're going to do a quick force on the little node there. I'm going to save my elixir here because I'm gonna save that for the next little pop here. And we got 2 fights left. This one's very simple. We're just gonna cast a couple gravities here and do a full combo after that. I'll go ahead and pop an elixir here, and I'm gonna do some extra damage to this just to kind of fill my MP up a little bit better. And then we're on to our final fight, Ansem 4. Again, Goofy's going to be kind of the star of the show here. We want Goofy again to try doing as many tornadoes as possible. Donald's going to be healing us quite a bit here, so I'm not really too worried. And Goofy, with me having the extra Mega Elixir, I can kind of just give it to Goofy and hope that he can get in with a tornado to deal as much damage as possible before we start getting sucked away. A really good sequence of damage is if we can get some green shown there, but it's alright if we don't. It's not too big of a deal. And now at this point, Ansem's getting a little desperate, so he does an attack that is trying to take away all of our MP here. And that is time! Had a few hiccups along the way, unfortunately, but thankfully we were able to kind of close out on a strong note for endgame for the most part. One of them is a really incredible run. There's a lot of runners right now that are super active in the community for beginner. Same thing with standard, especially right now. Got a few runners that have been labbing out some routing for standard, and just things are continuing to improve. And overall, it's an amazing run. So if you ever have the chance to check it out or want to try and get in on the action yourself, we have a very welcoming community for Kingdom Hearts altogether. Plenty of runners that are always willing to help out newer runners, and a bunch of guides as well available for those wanting to learn. I appreciate being able to showcase this run. I'm still improving myself, so definitely not the end of the things for me, but yeah, amazing run overall. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Again, thank you SpeedGaming so much for having me on for this event, and just getting to showcase our amazing community and everything else. So let's give it up for our next runner coming up after this, and that's it for me. I'll catch y'all later.